Hey Harmonizers, here is a look at Miss Elysia going offsite for an obstacle practice. So first up, we are in the indoor arena and we go for a little trot around first. She was a little bit lucky, but overall pretty good. I didn't want to do any warm up with her. I wanted to just kind of get on and go for a trot around and then go for a canter around. We only did a little bit of warm up kind of before we got into the arena. I did very minimal though, because I wanted to see if I brought her into a new space, would she be able to get kind of right down into it and go to business and be able to handle going for a canter around and kind of hold it together? I am grateful that usually if she is feeling overwhelmed, she will kind of resist going into a canter and kind of lets me know that she's feeling kind of emotional about something. So that's a good thing. But she needs to work on that and get comfortable in new places. So I was pretty happy that I did one loop of trot and then right into that canter. And then I, of course, offer her little cookie there. I want to make sure she knows that if she's trying for me, there's going to be rewards. And it also just helps her to start licking and chewing because she's munching on that cookie instead of stressing about stuff. The obstacles themselves, she's usually so brave with obstacles. As long as I have her mind and she's kind of calm and relaxed, she's so easy to do all of the obstacles with. She doesn't question anything I ask her to side pass over or go through gates or here's a little curtain. All that stuff's kind of easy for her. And if we think back to how she was like last year in training, sometimes she would kick up a bit of a fuss going sideways over different obstacles and stuff like that. So all of this feels really easy because she's feeling pretty relaxed and I feel like I have her brain pretty nicely. So we're going through the gate, she's standing nicely at all of the different things. Now keep in mind at this horse facility that we're at here, there's no other horses in the indoor arena. So it's kind of good because it's blocking out all sorts of distractions. She's going over the little turtle sandbox here, a little sniff, but then off she goes right through. So it kind of gives me hope for the thoroughbred makeover because for the freestyle competition, we will be in the covered TCA arena and she won't be able to see any other horses, which means that all of those distractions will be blocked off. However, there will be lots of people watching in the crowds, and that might be distracting, but she won't have the other horse distraction. Here, going through a little back through L, which she kind of struggled with keeping her feet between, so I have to be really precise. It's one of the downsides to a horse that's so kind of bomb proofed and doesn't really care what she's doing with her feet because she'll sideways over a pole, back over a pole, stay between the poles. She doesn't really care, so she's just trying to figure out what it is that I want her to do. She's not going to try to stay between the poles for me. She can be kind of confused by that. So you can see we're adding some speed between the obstacles, doing some canter after our backup, doing a little rollback here, practicing those transitions, which she's getting pretty nice at. She can be a little sluggish on the downward transition sometimes, like she took those extra couple little steps there. That haunch turn was not super great, but she's given me the leads. If we think back to how she was originally, she used to really struggle with that right lead, and now the leads are really easy for me to get right or left. It's not really something that I'm worried about. As long as I have her brain, that's the key, is if she is relaxed and thinking, then I can ask for those things pretty easily. Here going into the backup again, and I was just kind of struggling to get her super straight. She rubbed that pole just a little bit, and then coming over here, she's a little sticky for moving her booty, and you can see we kind of step on that pole there. She just wasn't quite moving her hip over when I was asking her to move, so getting her repositioned there. And that's just kind of a little lack of focus because I'm asking and she does know what to do. She ends up straddling the pole, the silly monkey, kicking the pole over and whatnot. And we can see that little bit of the tail swatting too, which just kind of lets me know that she's a little bit irritated about what I'm asking her to do. And that's just because we're messing around doing a whole bunch of new obstacles and adding the speed between the obstacles. I'm happy that she gave me the little canter transition there, side pass over the barrel, touch the horsey, no problems there, really, really easy. She did give the side pass a tiny little rub with her leg, but not really a big deal or anything like that. These canter transitions looking pretty nicely between the obstacles. That was really nice, the two little strides that she did there. And then I bring her around and I come up to this obstacle here, which is a bag filled with some cans, I think, on a rope and a pulley system. So I undo the rope and I start to back up my horse and I pull the little sack and it starts to go up. And she starts to think, hey, wait a second, that's a little bit scary. So she's backing up and I'm asking her to go forward there. And she's like, I don't really want to go forward towards the bag that's moving. So she really did not like that. I worked at it a little bit and she really was not appreciating that it would move. She was okay if it stayed kind of low on the ground, but if it was getting up kind of above her head height, she really was getting upset about it. And the rope was pretty long and I was able to move a decent way away from it, but she got pretty stressed. So I ended up having to get my helper to come over and stand beside Elysia as I played with it. And that way she could kind of keep moving the sack up and down and I could work with Elysia until she got more relaxed. Then I went off and did some more other stuff. So here I'm working on a little bit of a weave and doing that little sack pulley system thing made her start to get a little bit more inside her head. So here's an example of how like she just wasn't wanting to canter. And she does that when she starts to get stressed because she's kind of saying like, I can't think about my feet. So we worked on that a little bit. And then we still went on and did a few other things. Like here's taking the little teddy for a little ride around and pulling that, kind of working on using one hand to maneuver the sled around, which is a little bit tricky. Going for a little canter there, steering where we're going. It was actually like had a little bit of a drag to it. It was kind of tricky to be able to do that. And she didn't care about any of that stuff. And it's important when they struggle with things that you kind of work on something and then you want to give their mind a chance to start having what I call yes moments. So things that I know she can do or that she can do a little bit better, just to get her in that frame of mind of I can do this, we can do all sorts of different things. And then we're going to go back to that sack later after she's had a chance to kind of make some progress and then now go away and doing some other things. So here we started working with the gotcha pole and we discovered that our steering with one hand is really not perhaps the best thing. And we were struggling a little bit here because as we come around the corner, she was kind of stalling by the outgate a little bit. So we worked on it a little bit and were able to practice getting our transitions. We also had a little bit of a fail as she was like, do you want me to side pass over this pink thing that's here? And I'm like, not really, but you know, thanks. Let's try that garage pole again. I end up putting the stick bottom in the pool to help mark the center of the circle a little bit better. And I'm happy that she's at least able to make these tight little circles, be really precise with her on that. So she's got her fancy little moves going on there. Nice little tight circles. Bringing her around, working on that one hand. Sometimes I forget, you know, I do all this obstacle stuff and I forget that I need to be pretty good at riding my horse with one hand, not just with two hands, to make sure that we're going to be ready for all of these different obstacles, because you have to hold, you know, rope for the gates, you have to maybe hold a gotcha pole like this. There's all sorts of things that you can be asked to do, which is really one of the fun things about extreme cowboy racing or about competing in trail stuff or the obstacles, is you really don't know what you're going to be asked to do, and there's so many things that you want to train your horse on. So after going off and doing a whole bunch of other things, we come back to this wonderful sack, and I found out that she was better with the object out of her left eye than her right eye. So we started with it more on the left eye, which she seemed to be a lot better at. So that's why I kind of side passed away from it and then come forward, offer her that positive reinforcement. Then we go away and we do a few other things as well. Had a little sticky lead there. As long as I'm really focused and asking her what I want her to do, then we can get our leads, no problem there. Grabbing our little rope, which gives us another chance to practice riding with one hand. So I get her set up to ask for that canter transition. She was trying to get her left lead there, so I have to be a little bit more particular. It's a little bit harder to do one-handed to get her set up for those canter leads. Come around to do our little cow that we're going to rope, which roping is not my strongest skill, but it's definitely something that I need to spend more time practicing on. So I get my loop together, and keep in mind this is not a rope that I set up. It was already kind of on the fence, and it's always easier if you set up your own loop, have it kind of ready ahead of time. But anyways, I'm tossing that. I kind of catch the cow, so I'm happy with that. But more importantly, look how nicely Lissy stood for that. That was really, really good. And this is awesome because she was upset by that sack pulley system obstacle that we did, and then we were able to settle and kind of get our brain back and be able to focus on these obstacles again and make some progress on all of these different obstacles. Doing our back through here, looking pretty good. Making the little turn. I think she stepped out just once with her hind leg there, and then she went between really nicely. So awesome that she was able to have that emotional control to get worried about something and then be able to kind of continue on, because in the past Lissy has gotten upset about different things and it takes her a long time to come off of that adrenaline and that stress. So her emotional control has skyrocketed and gotten so much better. Look at how good this backup is, and then I can go forward with the little bag. So she ended up mastering that obstacle. So after she did that, I hopped off because I thought, what a good way to end her session in the indoor arena where she was able to conquer that and know what she's doing. But there is still an outdoor ring, so we hop on to go ride outside. Here's a little look at her at the water box that has the little duckies in it. She really wanted to put her head down and kind of sniff it, or who knows, maybe drink it or splash in it. So that's why I had to kind of lift her head up and say, no, we're just walking through it. As they get more confident with water boxes and water, we don't want them to be putting their head down to drink it or to splash in it. We want them to just calmly walk through it. They can look at it, but you don't want them to be splashing. And then we head out to the outdoor ring to do a little ride there. So I'll just show you guys a couple clips from that. So here I am going to ask her to go for a canter around the ring. And I had to kind of slow down a little bit and get her set up. And you can see she's being a little bit reluctant to go forward. And I'm just getting her canter on the correct lead there. Coming for our canter around the ring. And being so zoomed out, you can kind of get an appreciation for just how big the ring is. And really happy that she was able to go in and canter, because Lissy can be a little bit crazy. And so the fact that we were able to go in and do a pretty nice canter, and then here's another water box, which she goes in really nicely, just kind of looks at, and then in we go. We're going to probably have water as part of our trail class when we go down to the Thoroughbred makeover. So we want to make sure we have that figured out. The trot poles we did not have figured out, so she decided that she wanted to jump those, and those kind of trot poles were set really close together, so perhaps that's why she wanted to just jump over it, be a little bit easier than figuring out where to place her feet. And then once she kind of gets that figured out, then we go on to the next one. But I repeat it quite a few times because I want to make sure that she's thinking about her feet and thinking about where to place them. So here she kind of jumps, trots, mostly trots through it. So we go on to the next obstacle here with the little set around. And we've been working on doing our collected canter and being able to do these tiny little circles. So that really plays to our favor here at the send around. She can do a nice little canter around the box, which we may not get asked to do as part of a trail class. I'm not really sure, but for Extreme Cowboy, that's definitely one of the obstacles that we have to do. And I did sign Elysia and Elon up for the Futurity class, which is for 3 and 4-year-old horses. And Lissy and Elon are both 4, so I figured I may as well sign them up for the Futurity in Ontario for Extreme Cowboy. You can't actually do both Texas and Ontario, so I figure I may as well do the Ontario Futurity class, and then Elon will be going down to Texas for the Mustang class. And of course, we're going to see Shiny at EXCA for the world class for the futurity as well. So that'll be pretty exciting. Then here's a little look at doing our lead changes as part of the daisy chain. So our flying lead changes, we can get them sometimes, but not in a really close environment like this. So we're working on those simple changes still, which is getting really good at switching her leads for that. So hopefully we'll be able to add in flying lead changes in the future. So then I decided to just do a couple choosing of the leads while on a straightaway. And she did that really nicely, so decided to hop off and call it a day on that. So overall, Lissy's doing super awesome, so much better than she was before.